Good evening. Welcome to this edition of the Evening Review. My name is Jemima Birkus, your host this evening. Now, as we are making sense of the US aid crackdown, donor aid funding being slashed to several countries or around the world, we brought in Dr. Kaire Mbuende. He is a former ambassador to several European countries. He's talking to us about the implications the cutting of aid to African countries like Namibia will mean. Thank you for joining us, Ambassador.
Thank you very much.
Ambassador, what do you make of US President Donald Trump's decision to cut aid to countries like Namibia?
Well, it's a decision that was taken or announced. We still have to see how it will play itself out. But, you know, as far as Namibia and a number of African countries are concerned, I think the question of development aid from the US is important, especially for the social sectors and so forth. But I believe that, you know, it's a wake-up call for us to put our house in order, to mobilize the internal financing for measures for financing for development. And so, in the long run, I think it's a wake-up call to which we have to respond by relying more on our resources and making sure that we do generate wealth from our resources. I mean, there's no secret that Africa is one of the richest continents, but with the poorest people. And the question of how we use those resources, you know, it's key. And therefore, we should be looking at relying more on ourselves than on development aid. As for Namibia, development aid is a small fraction of our budget. There are countries that are heavily dependent on development aid, but Namibia is not one of them, even though there are some projects, you know, like in the health sector and others that have benefited from US aid.
Yeah, like you say, talking about the small fracture, we know that PEPFAR has cut down funding a few years ago significantly for Namibia. Now, do you think the Namibian government is in a position to absorb whatever implications will be created because of this cut? And then also, at the same time, you are saying Africa is a rich country with resources. And there are people out there that ask whether we are cursed. Why is it that we can't develop our countries with these resources? What are your views?
Well, my views are that I think we have lost a lot of time, but I believe we are on a mission to make sure that the resources of Namibia are optimally used for the development of Namibia and for the benefit of the people of Namibia. The call and the theme of, for example, SWAPO election manifesto was to grow the economy, to address the issue of unemployment, youth unemployment, but economic diversification is what we need to grow our economy to the rate that it will make an impact on poverty. Because we have had positive growth, but it has not been sufficient. It has been, we have been able to maintain institutions and to continue continue servicing the system that we have. But we need more than that. We need to bring down unemployment. We need to bring down the level of poverty. And therefore, we need a much higher level of growth. And one of the areas that has been identified to achieve that level of growth is the issue of diversification of our economy, because we export the raw materials and the jobs are created somewhere else. And also the value of the products to which value has been added generate much more income And so we are going to be single-minded about diversifying our economy, but also stimulating agriculture and moving away from traditional agriculture, more intensive agriculture, irrigation, and large-scale production to combine it with your traditional small-scale, because you can't reach a level of food self-sufficiency and provide agricultural input for the manufacturing sector if you don't increase the level of your production.
Ambassador, you've been part of this government for quite a while. What would you say if someone responds to what you've just said by saying that government is gaslighting Namibians by saying what you are saying, that we need to diversify, that we need to invest in agriculture, while at the same time, this country is bleeding with billions of dollars. We've seen the fish rot, for instance. We've now seen with Namibia how many diamonds have gone into thin air. There's no accountability. Nobody is explaining where these diamonds are. Nobody is being held accountable. And money that people believe could have been used to develop this country. What do you make of a response that what you are saying is gaslighting the Namibian people?
Well, all I can talk about is the commitment of SWAPO, the commitment of the incoming president. Say from day one, the issue of economic diversification and wealth creation is absolutely on top of our agenda. And we're going to be single-minded about that. Now, the issues of corruption, money disappearing and so forth, yes, that needs to be addressed, but the fundamental issue is wealth creation. And we have to create wealth, and we have not created sufficient wealth in the past because we allowed certain practices from the colonial economic structures to continue. And we say enough is enough.
On those structures from the
well, for example, that the economy, the mining sector is dominated by the extractive industry. Extract even a simple thing like you talk about uranium. Most of our natural resources are exported in raw form. And we believe that there is scope for adding value to those so that they can create jobs, but also generate more income.
You've been an ambassador, you've been in several other countries outside Namibia. You've seen that other countries are doing what is in the best interest for their own people. Now, these investors are doing what is good for them, and they are doing what is in the best interest of them and the countries they come from. This has been a Namibian government, a SWAPO government for the last 35 years. Why are we still stuck in an apartheid conversation?
Well, I'm not talking about apartheid.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the economic structure,
yes.
The legacy of the economic structure.
So why is the government not change the structure?
Well, this is exactly what I'm talking about, that we have had the structure whereby there was continuous, export of raw material, and we are saying that we need to put a stop to that. It's never late. We could have done it earlier. I agree with you. But all we are saying is that come back to us a year later from now and ask us, what did you do about economic diversification? And I will be able to show you what has happened in the area of diversification. Because you're talking about this country operating, the investors in the interest of their countries. That is true, but also our own capacity to force them, because this is our country, this is our resources, and we have to set the terms. But of course, sometimes, you talk about investor-friendly and all this jargon. But first of all, the interests of the people of Namibia come before everything else. Mm-hmm. And the world has changed also. There were times when you have only certain number of limited investors or only certain countries with certain kind of technology. We are now in a multipolar world where if the one country or one company will leave, you'll be able to bring in another one. And we are able to play, we are in a much better position in the multipolar world than we were in the past.
Ambassador, yes, I'm sure you would agree with me that there's no other city or country that is more investor friendly than Hong Kong, for instance. So what has stopped us from developing at least to half of that kind of development if we are as investor friendly as you say, and we are aspiring to be as investor friendly?
No. I'm saying, when you try to impose certain regulations to protect your national interest and to make sure that your resources work for your people, sometimes those who believe in the free market think that you should just provide the environment and they can come here and do what they want. And what we are saying is that, yes, we need the capital, we need technology, and we need partnership for the development of our country. And it's all a question of what you negotiate, what kind of partnership will you negotiate with the different companies and different countries. And so, how long will it take for Hong Kong to come where it is? The level of human resources, the amount of money that was put in. So you can't compare apples and pears.
Yeah, but if you look at the fact that
I would like to talk about Namibia's potential and what we can do, and the limit, and how to overcome some of those limits.
No, I absolutely agree with you that you can't compare apples and pears. But if you look at the agreements that we as a country have signed, we have 10% in many of our resources, in the oil, uranium, wherever. Why are we not developing?
What is 10%?
If these investors are supposed to give back, why have we not enforced these regulations to make sure that these people develop this country when we've given them such a free environment?
No, you see, they are operating, and what we are saying is that traditionally it has been more extractive industry dominated. And you have to understand that the companies sometimes that are involved in the extractive industries don't have skills for value addition, because you take a company that is specialized in taking diamonds out of the ground, but they've never made a diamond ring or a diamond necklace. Somebody else has to do that. And therefore, the issue of value chain development becomes critical.
And something that we have failed to ensure.
I wouldn't say fail. It's an ongoing process. It's a question of, what kind of human resources do you need over how many years? If you take the education system, we had the level of, and there have been the level of human resources, because the skills base that you have is absolutely crucial. And of course, our educational system has its own challenges and so forth. But we have made progress, and we are determined to continue on that trajectory and even to scale up the process.
I just want to, we are always keen to come to our education system has not necessarily produced enough skills, but we must also keep in mind that many Namibians are not a product of this education system. That we have many Namibians that have studied outside this country with the critical skills, but they're overlooked. So you've just said that this incoming government will build a new system, or there will be changes. What guarantee?
There will be a drive. Well, the eating is in the pudding, isn't it? Or the taste is in the eating. So all we have is that, first of all, You could say that when we say we are going to liberate this country,
Yes.
you can ask me a question, what guarantee did we have? But we worked for it, and we did it. And we are going to work for it, and we'll do it.
We're going on a short break, and then we'll be right back
Yes.
on that question. We'll be back right now.
NTV Awards 2025. These are your nominees. Show of the Year. Viewer's Choice Presenter of the Year. Lifestyle Show of the Year. Public Affairs Show of the Year. Sport Show of the Year. Sport Presenter of the Year. My Zone Show of the Year. And Chill Personality of the Year. NTV Awards, celebrating creativity, dedication, and impact. NTV Second Annual Awards 2025. This is how you can vote for your favorites. Save Synergy chatbot number +264 85785 6231 and send hashtag NTV Awards 2025 on WhatsApp and follow instructions. These are the categories you can vote for. Viewer's Choice Presenter of the Year. Precious Nyitaunapo, Toivo Njebela, Joe Marie Dadi, Aina Kweyo, and Brian Munango. Chill Personality of the Year, Miss Gideon, Jericho, DJ Vuyo, Captain Swazi, and P-Star. Voting closes 8 February 2025.
Welcome back to yet another edition of the Evening Review. If you just joined us, we have in studio Dr. Kaire Mbuende. He is a former ambassador of Namibia to several European countries. We are talking about the donor cut from the US government and how it's going to implicate Namibia, and also what this means for Namibia and whether it is time for Namibia to build a serious economy. Now, Doctor, before we went on a break, we were talking about skills. Can you share with us? There's always this talk that we do not have sufficient skills. And yet there are several people that say they have the skills, they have the qualifications, but they're overlooked.
Well, I don't know, what skills do you need to transform an economy? What skills do you need to sustain industries? You need your engineers, of course, your electrician, and different kind of skills. There are skills, and sometimes those skills are not the ones that are in demand on the market. And there is a mismatch between the demand and the supply.
Yes.
And I think that is a challenge. And building up a skill base that are going to transform, to have an impact on the transformation of the economy, it's going to take a while. And that's why a lot of countries also sometimes will have to rely on expatriates to occupy certain key strategic positions in the industry. But one has to look at what is the available skills. And because a lot of our people are more into the social sciences, into, education, we have maybe oversupply of lawyers and so forth, but where are the engineers? We are now, there's the discovery of oil and gas. What skills do you have in that sector of the economy? And of course, mining, and we have been at it for many years, but there are people who with skills who are working in the mining sector.
Now, coming back to the cut, the donor aid cut from the U.S., do you think the U.S. is leaning towards an isolated government structure? Because much of what is happening right now and that is pushing that government is right-wing Americans that feel they've been overlooked. Their skills have been overlooked. They feel that they have been replaced by policies like diversity employment. Do you think this is just a strategy, or is this the final whistle? Will Africa ever get that aid, or do you think in the long run it might be aid will be used as a tool to influence governments?
Well, I think, you know, as Namibia, really because of our classification as a middle-income country, you know, we have been, a lot of countries that were supporting us at independence have stopped supporting us and giving us development aid. And some of them are our even own what I call traditional friends, and they have cut development aid. And we have been able to sustain, because development aid is a small portion of our budget, if you want. So therefore, we are not aid dependent. But even though you know, any additional resources, it's always welcome and it make an impact. But we should now look deeply into our own situation, into our own economy, and make the best of it. I think the isolationist policy of the U.S. on a number of things, including aid, will make us just, I mean, it's redefining the world. And there will be differences. I mean, in this global world, and you are taking as isolationist, it will strengthen groups such as BRICS. It will even strengthen further integration of Europe, the EU, because the EU-US relations has always been dynamic. And of course, African countries. They have to look at not only at themselves individually, but also collectively. So it's a redefinition of the world, but also a strengthening of multilateralism in a different way.
There are talks, obviously, that what is happening right now, like you say, is redefining what the world looks like. And now it's the West between the East. And South Africa is part of the BRICS. Namibia, whether we like it or not, is connected to South Africa. So do you think do you see us being caught in the middle here when it comes to this shift in global politics?
No, I don't think so. We have had historical relations with South Africa. It's our major trading partner, and we have also political relations, and those ones will continue. And irrespective of what happened, you know, the U.S. cannot redefine our relations with our friends and also internationally. In this multipolar world, Namibia's relation with the whole world, and the U.S. is only one country. And the principle of sovereign equality of all nations is very important for us.
How do you think, in conclusion, should Namibia protect itself from what is happening right now? I mean, we've already caught strays with Elon Musk telling the Germans that they should free themselves from the past, a past that is connected to Namibia that is demanding reparations for the genocide. So how should Namibia protect herself from the increasing fascism that will eventually impact the rest of the world?
I think the question for us is to build or to continue to build our own capacity to deal with our issues. That's what it is. You can deal with other countries, and of course, international relations is part of our it's part of our domestic policies, and we deal with other nations to advance our national interest. And therefore, we are not just a small country that will go left or right depending on the wings of others. I think we have resources, and we have the political capacity to strengthen our economy and our politics, and to deal with the rest of the world on equal terms.
Thank you very much for joining us and sharing your insight with us, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.